The 1800s were wonderful years for the art of ballet. Many of the great ballets that are still performed today debut, fell, and rose within that century. The turn of the 19th century saw ballet grow in popularity and prestige, helping to cement the practice as one of great art, skill, discipline, and athletics that is still recognized today. Music boxes, on the other hand, have been around since the 1770s, influenced by the gears of clocks and the joy of music. Though the decorative boxes have changed a lot in modern times, the components inside have remained mostly the same compared to when they were first invented and refined. It is unclear when tiny ballerina figures started to make their home in music boxes, but we do know that on October 24th of 1892, a loving father completed work on a music box for his daughter. On the eve of her creation, the man stared proudly at his craftsmanship. The amount of love and care poured into his creation blessed the tiny ballerina with a spark of magic. Once in the hands of his daughter, this tiny spark was kindled like the flame of a candle. The joy and happiness the daughter felt listening to the tinny tune lengthened the wick and wax of this candle. But as years passed, the metal of the music box began to tarnish and the gears ceased to function. The beautiful box was all but forgotten, tucked inside an attic with a family that no longer remembered the loving father or his daughter. Stuck in her poised position, the spark of magic inside the ballerina began to flicker. It pounded in her chest like a clock ticking closer to its final hour. Death's grip wrapped its claws around the remaining sparks of magic, smothering the flame until it was a breath from wisping away. It was only in that desperate moment before death that the ballerina opened her eyes. Her stiffened joints relaxed, she freed herself from her eternal pirouette. Climbing from her golden pedestal, she opened the lid of her box and peered out. Though the stars twinkled outside, casting a soft glow into the attic, the world was dark and still. Ducking back inside the box that she called home, the little ballerina pushed against the rusted gears. With all of her strength, she threw herself against them until they began to turn. The wind-up key on the outside of the box spun as notes sang out once more from the long-forgotten music box. The musical notes wrapped around the little box, carrying it away from the silent attic in a final performance. Once the music had stopped and the motion of the box was still, the little ballerina popped out of her box again. A bright and fantastical world lay before her. She clutched her hand to her chest as a beaming smile spread across her lips. The necklace that delicately rested against her collarbone began to glow, enveloping the ballerina as she grew in stature until she had assumed the size of a human. Like a bird now free from the wires of its cage, she rushed forward, twirling and laughing joyfully as the distance between the ballerina and her box grew. Like the jarring call of a clock striking the hour, stiffness suddenly started to overtake her limbs, and her arms began to rise above her head, as they had when she was in her eternal pose. She spun around so quickly it was as if she had jumped through a mirror. The box sat silently, glinting in the daytime sun, on the top of the hill as the world began to oversize her once more. Once she touched the familiar wood and metal, lightness found her once more. Her shoulders trembled, the wings of freedom that she had momentarily enjoyed were once again pinned against her body, wrapping her magical spark in heavy chains and locks. For a moment, she thought it would have been better if she had melted away like the snow of winter than to be a snowflake trapped inside a snow globe. For a moment, she wished that the silent sigh of death would have shrouded her existence in that attic. She tilted her head toward the colorful sky, worried that it was no longer there, but it greeted her just as vibrantly as it had moments before. It was still there, just as she was still here. This was not her final act. The weight inside her lightened, turning her chains into ribbon. She was still bound by her fate, but she would not let that weight burden her. Light swallowed her once more as she heightened to her human size, this time making sure to pick up her home. The box resting silently and heavily in her palms as she calmly made her way down the hill again. She had always held the singular wish to see the worlds beyond the enclosed castle of her music box, but now she held a second wish in her other hand. If independence was not hers to own, then she wanted to give what she could. If all she could offer were the brief moments of happiness that her songs and dances permitted, then that is what she would do. The joy that she shared with a girl long forgotten to time was the source of her shine, and it could grow to eclipse the sun. She may be small, but she is indispensable. She is Sellirina.